Hey guys, welcome back to the King of Glory. This is session 40 in a series of devotional messages that we use to explore the kingship of Jesus in a variety of ways. I believe it's a topic that we could explore forever until his return, and maybe we will if I continue doing this uh, for FAI on this channel on Mondays. Then maybe that's just what I'll do until I die or until he returns. There's certainly would not be a bad use of my time to just continue to explore his lordship in all the ways that I can. Before I dive in today, I want to point your attention to an opportunity to train with us, our Emmaus Online course. I believe we're in the 5th year now and getting ready for our 6th year, and we'd love to have you join us. It's a phenomenal class. I have the joy, I have the privilege of being involved in leadership along with Stephanie, and it is a really just an honor to be able to walk alongside so many people who have participated with us in Emmaus Online. Our tagline for it is any location, any vocation. So it doesn't matter what you do or where you live, you can join us. We'd love to have you join us for next class year. The registration's already available. You can sign up online. The information is available here in this video, or you can just go search on our app or on our website for Emmaus Online. I'm sure you can find out how to sign up there as well. So today we are going to explore in session 40 the Lordship of Jesus, or his supreme majesty, as it's demonstrated by the ways in which he goes ahead of us to defeat our enemies and to actually transform the way we view our relationship to enemies by virtue of his leadership. And so I'll start today in the book of Micah, chapter 4. I'm going to read a long passage. I want to recognize, even before I do so, that this is a passage that I am not co-opting this passage from the Lord's promises to the apple of his eye, to the Jewish people. I believe that this is a promise that he will fulfill in them, that we are grafted into this promise as believers in Jesus. But listen to how Jesus goes ahead of us to do for us what we can't do for ourselves. Starting in verse 1, in the last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as the highest of the mountains. It will be exalted above the hills, and peoples will stream to it. Many nations will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the temple of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways so that we may walk in his paths. The law will go out from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. This is literally what I believe about the return of the Lord. He will set his feet back on the Mount of Olives, go up through that beautiful gate, seat himself on the throne there in the Temple Mount, and the law will go out from Zion to the ends of the earth. Verse 3, he will judge between many peoples and will settle disputes for strong nations far and wide. They will beat their swords and plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. Everyone will sit under their own vine and under their own fig tree, and no one will make them afraid, for the Lord Almighty has spoken. So when he comes and he speaks and he administers justice, there is the end of all wars, and no one will have any cause to be afraid. Verse 5, all the nations may walk in the name of their gods, but we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. In that day, declares the Lord, I will gather the lame, I will assemble the exiles, and those I have brought to grief. I will make the lame my remnant, those driven away a strong nation. The Lord will rule over them in Mount Zion from that day and forever. As for you, watchtower of the flock, stronghold of daughter Zion, the former dominion will be restored to you. Kingship will come to daughter Jerusalem. He's saying that he'll return to the place from which he ascended to bring back his kingship and his everlasting dominion, sitting on the throne of David. Verse 9, why do you now cry aloud? Have you no king? Has your ruler perished? That pain seizes you like that of a woman in labor. He's asking the question, are you not aware that he is... he's not maturing where he is now. Everything he will be on his return, he is now. Verse 10, Writhe in agony, daughter of Zion, like a woman in labor, for now you must leave the city to camp in the open field. You will go to Babylon. There you will be rescued. There the Lord will redeem you out of the hand of your enemies. And so there's this beautiful prophecy in the book of Micah about a day coming. You might say that there's so much hope for the way in which the Lord will ultimately return and rule and reign and provide an everlasting peace and rescue from anyone or anything that would oppose us or his purposes. But when you read, when you bring this into the light of of Christ as he, in his first advent, comes to earth and lives amongst us and teaches us, you'll find that the deliverance from our enemies is not maybe the way we would, in and of ourselves, categorize it. In Matthew 5, we read these words in verses 43 to 46. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? He's saying, if all you do is love the people that are easy to love and those who love you back, then there's no reward for that. It's just simple. But you're called to not just love those who love you, to love your neighbor, but to also love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. This is the power of the gospel applied in our lives. We don't just believe for the promise of deliverance from our enemies so that they won't hurt us. We actually experience deliverance from our enemies when we are made secure in Christ, when we are adopted in as sons and daughters, so that we can actually love our enemies. We don't have to hold a hostile attitude towards those who would do us harm or who would stand opposed to the things of Christ, because we're made whole in him. And when we're made whole in Jesus, no thing can pluck us from his hand. And so we actually are freed up to love those that we would maybe not otherwise. I see this playing out in the book of Acts in the life of Saul, who we know as the Apostle Paul. He's a great persecutor, as you know, of the early church. He goes to Damascus to collect names to bring back to arrest people, to bring them back to Jerusalem to stand trial, those who were followers of the way. But on his way, he's arrested by the presence of Christ, blinded. And once he's blinded, Jesus speaks to a man named Hananias and tells him to go to Paul and to go to Saul and to pray for him, and that the scales will be removed from his eyes. And Hananias is a little bit taken back by this, because he recognizes that who he's being asked to go and pray for. But he is obedient to the word of the Lord to love his enemy and to pray for his enemy. And he goes and he lays his hand on Saul and he calls him brother. And I believe when he does this, it's at that time that the scales fall off Saul's eyes. So there's something extraordinarily powerful about the way in which God delivers us from our enemies and frees us up to actually love them. The very same guy who has this hand laid on him, this hand that he would have seen as an enemy in Hananias, then writes in Romans 12, Paul writes, bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse them, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink, for by so doing you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So Paul has now realized this lesson in such a deep and profound way that he's saying, look, you can you can persecute those who are persecuting you with love. And when you do so, you actually this is the greatest sort of attack you can use to break down their defenses. And, to bring this full circle, this whole idea of God leading us in deliverance from our enemies, we see this prophesied in lots of places. I chose, the book of Micah, in chapter 4, and then we kind of sorted through it. But I want to just bring it to maybe a fullness in the book of Revelation, chapter 3. This is to the angel of the church in Philadelphia, write, "These are the words who him who is holy and true, who holds the key of David. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. I will make those who are of the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews, though they are not, but are liars, I will make them come and fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you. Since you have kept my command to endure patiently, I will also keep you from the hour of trial that is going to come on the whole world to test the inhabitants of the earth." The Lord will allow us to endure even the wrath of Satan. He'll allow us to walk through these deep trials only to vindicate us by causing those who've risen up against us to fall down at our feet and acknowledge the love of the Lord in our lives. I love the fact that we are delivered from our enemies, to love our enemies, and even to endure the worst that the world, the flesh, and the devil can throw our way, knowing that ultimately, as Paul says, that vindication belongs to the Lord. And it's not up to us. It's no need for us to repay. There's no need for us to respond to evil the way the world responds to evil. We've been given something much better in the gospel. We've been given the opportunity to pour love on as heaping coals on the heads of our enemies, as a way to break down their defenses with the overwhelming unconditional love that God has shown us, and by doing so that we might endure. Man, that's a easier word to preach than to live, and I pray that it'd be true in your life, in my life. And if you're in the midst of such suffering right now at the hands of those who rise up against you, then I pray that you would endure until the Lord returns, and may he return soon. In the name of Jesus, Maranatha.